Well, good morning everybody, and welcome to another review. This one's a bit special. We're looking at Inibuilds London Heathrow Airport, Echo Golf Lima Lima in the UK. A bit special because I spent 27 years working there in aviation security, so I got to know the airport quite well. However, I left in 2006 when I retired. Now, some 16 years later, we get to look at the simulated version by Inibuilds. Now, yesterday, before I started this review, I actually drove up to Heathrow and spent a couple of hours driving around to familiarise myself with the airport, which I worked at 16 years ago, and also managed to meet a few people as well that still work there, friends of mine, and was able to familiarise myself with a lot of old haunts. So in a way, this is going to be a little bit of a memory lane trip for me, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I will. I'll start right off the bat by saying that if you want the best Heathrow available, this is it. There are problems with this scenery, lots of bits and pieces missing, quite a large reliance on photo scenery, which doesn't really work when you've got really good scenery development sitting close by it. However, that said, we've been waiting for a Heathrow for a long time from a paid developer. Previously, Gary Summons at UK 2000 Scenery did a really good job for FSX and P3D, and we wanted something better than the Asobo version for Flight Sim 2020. We now have it. It looks really good, but there are other issues, and we'll get into those as time goes on. So let's look at the basics. As I said, Heathrow International Airport in the UK, Echo Golf Lima Lima, scenery developed by Inibuilds. It downloads at 4.9 gigabytes and installs at just over 10 gigabytes. Current price, you can buy it from Sim Market, currently going at €28.79, which equates to $32.19 US, or £24.06 UK. Now, from Sim Market, those prices include tax or VAT, and obviously that will vary slightly depending on your country of purchase. It is slightly cheaper if you purchase it from the Inibuilds site. I purchased it directly from there at a cost of UK £17.99, which is £21.59 including VAT, so it's a bit cheaper. But bear in mind, if you do that, then you need to download the Inimanager installation software and then run it, much like those of you who have Airsoft 1 or Contrail. This little piece of bloatware you need to download, and then it will then download the scenery and install it for you. And there is no option from that if you get it from Inimanager. So say the only advantage really is it's a bit cheaper in price, and you probably get notified of upgrades probably a bit quicker. So I installed it via Inimanager, everything went okay, and then I removed the Inimanager software, so I don't need it. It takes up nearly 600 meg and it's not necessary, in my considered opinion. There seems to be a lot of companies doing this bloatware situation, which really doesn't help. Why they can't just have a decent standard install, which I believe you get from a Sim Market one. Perhaps any of you have bought it from Sim Market might tell me in the comments whether or not you have to use Inimanager or whether it's a straight install. So it installs at just over 10 gig. A little tip for users of Flight Simulator Deluxe Premium Edition, which is what I have. I've found that the scenery is better off if you remove, or not remove, but deactivate the Asobo LHR underneath it, the default one. Well, this may not be beneficial to all users, but remember that the simulation will load both scenery areas into memory, and this may cause a hit, so to speak. I've found one or two little anomalies, nothing serious, I need to write home about, but I decided to deactivate the default Asobo Heathrow, and visually it's slightly improved. And although this is a big scenery and there's quite a few stutters going on, as you'll see, I have an i9 9900 CPU processor, and I still get a little bit of movement stutters with the drone camera, so anything to improve that I think is beneficial. So a quick bit of history. I'm going to do this because there are non-UK users who are going to want to use this airport, and they need to know a little bit about how it operates, certainly if you fly online, because they use the correct procedures. Heathrow Airport was originally called London Airport until 1966 and is now known as London Heathrow. is a major international airport in London, England. Along with Gatwick, London City, Luton, Stansted and Southend, it's one of the 6 international airports serving the London area. The airport facility is owned and operated by Heathrow Airport Holdings, but for many years it was property of British Airports Authority, known as the BAA, company I worked for all of those years that I was there. Before the Monopolies and Mergers Commission, in their infinite wisdom, decided that in the spirit of competition BAA should sell the airport off. Thus, Ferrovial, a Spanish company raising money through various companies and loans, bought the airport in 2009 at what many consider to be the rip-off low price of £10.3 billion. Having lost its premier position of being the busiest international airport in the world for some time ago, in 2020 it was the 3rd busiest in the world by international passenger traffic, the 22nd busiest by world passenger traffic, and the 3rd busiest by Europe passenger traffic. The airport was founded as a small airfield in 1929, began life as Hounslow Heath, with grass runways. The airport was developed into a much larger airport after World War II, and lying just 18 miles west of the City of London, the airport is 4.7 square miles in area, or 12.27 square kilometres, and was gradually expanded over the next 75 years, and now has 2 parallel east-west runways, along with 4 operational passenger terminals and 1 cargo terminal. There used to be 5 terminals, but the central area has undergone significant development, so we now have 4 working. The airport is the primary hub for British Airways and the primary operating base for Virgin Atlantic. In 2020, it handled 22.1 million passengers, which is over a 73% drop in passenger traffic from 2019, generally due to the COVID situation. And they had over 207,000 aircraft movements. Runways. Previously Heathrow had a cross runway 2305, which used to go down here, but this is now largely gone. Currently the airport has 2 parallel runways. Runway 27 left, 09 right is 12,001 foot long, or 3,658 metres, and it's made from grooved asphalt. This runway is equipped with high intensity runway lighting system version 2 and precision approach path indicators at both ends. The runway is also ILS category 3B certified at both ends and has RNP approaches options available too. Runway 27 right, 09 left, which is the one we're looking at now, is 12,799 feet or 3,901 metres long. It's slightly longer than the southern runway and is also made from grooved asphalt. As per the southern runway, this runway is also equipped with high intensity runway lighting system version 2 and precision approach path indicators at both ends. It's also ILS category 3B certified and has RMP approach options available as well. And for the new simmers among us, people are going to use Heathrow and want to find out for the first time, Heathrow has a runway alternation program which is published monthly, and during normal operations where the preferred direction is westerly, so in other words 27 left and right are the preferred runways. One runway is used for departures and the other for arrivals, and then at 3 PM local time they then swap. Essentially 27 right might be the departure runway, 27 left would be the arrival runway, and then at 3 PM they'll swap over. This is to spread the noise footprint to better benefit the residents living close to the airport. In addition, when the flow is easterly and runway 09 is in use, no changeover takes place at all. Runway 9 left is for landings only and runway 9 right is for takeoffs only. Whilst complaints are at an all-time low, often people complain about a takeoff from runway 9 left when in fact it was a go-around or missed approach that occurred and not a takeoff. So mostly, in most situations, that's the situation when you go easterly. This is to minimise the noise footprint again for local residents and when they're taking off over London. For many years there was a legal agreement between the airport and the citizens of Cranford locally, which lapsed, but started in 1974 and has lapsed not so long ago. But the airport still generally recognises that protocol, and 9 left is never really used for takeoffs at all. However, depending on the flow, ATC will allow landings on 09 right subject to traffic flow. So there you are, a little bit of history about the airport before we get into this product. So let's get down and dirty now and have a good look around this airport, and I'll explain some of my bits and pieces and places that I remember quite well along the way. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful. So we'll start by looking at the main central area, and we're looking towards the southwest here. Here's runway 27 left, 09 right in this direction, and we're looking at the central area. Here you've got Terminal 2, which is currently in use, and here also you've got Terminal 3. These are vastly different from when I worked here, although Terminal 2 is still known as the Queen's Terminal. Here is what remains of Terminal 1. I'm not sure if it's still being constructed. At the moment, clearly it's not really going to be in use. So you've got these two terminals in the central area. The road system has been changed. When I was working here, you literally drove out of the tunnel and round, and you got through the terminals. It was quite straightforward. Now the roads are a little bit different and sometimes hard to find if you're driving around. There in the distance is Terminal 5, which is split into three areas. You've got to the main terminal 5A and B and C, and then over here on the left, which I believe is closed at the moment, is Terminal 4. This used to be exclusively British Airways many years ago. Now Terminal 5 is pretty much exclusively British Airways, although things have obviously changed due to COVID. Here in the distance you've got the iconic control tower, which Heathrow is quite famous for. So here's the exit to the main tunnel. Basically Heathrow has a central tunnel coming in from the M4 motorway on the north side, which then goes under the northern runway and into the central area. Now for some reason, one other big disappointment really here, it's not modelled. Some people say it's because it can't be modelled, but I'm going to show you a little bit of video in a moment taken from Fly Tamper's Athens, where you can see that actually tunnel options and under road options can be modelled in the simulator. If you look at this little piece of video, this is taken at Fly Tamper Athens, where you can see the train going under the road system, and further on you can see the station where the train parks. So it's quite possible to do tunnels. Don't really know why they didn't do it. And I've also included Kuala Lumpur's Aerotrain simulation there for you to see too. So here's a landside modelling of Terminal 2. I mean, it looks okay. It also looks pretty bland. But the textures look quite good. And they've got the shape and everything correct. We go a bit closer, you can see the designation here of the Queen's Terminal. It's nice, it's perfectly acceptable, but again they've really sort of done the minimum that's required. Not much in the way of internal development, as you can see, but there you go. They've done the minimum. At least it's got a roof on it. And have a look at the same terminal from Airside, and talking of roofs, you can see they've got that design modelled pretty accurately. Looks really quite good. And just over here to the right you can see they've got some animated construction here going on as well. Back to the central area, again as I say, we're just looking at this is the exit of the main tunnel, comes into the central area. Here you've got the Turkish Airlines mono here. Car parks with cars on the top. The brickwork is accurate. This is the way the actual place looks. It's got brickwork as opposed to this. Here's the multi-storey car park for Terminal 3, and as I said, this was Terminal 1, but I'm not sure if it's going to be developed any further in the real world because of the situation currently. Landside roads going into Terminal 2 look nice. They've been done very, very accurately there. You've got the little structure that's quite iconic. This is outside the hotel, and here you've got the Hilton Hotel, which is close by Terminal 2. And a little bit of a closer look. As you can see, they've modelled it quite nicely. We've even got the little bit of weathering on the outside, which is really quite nice. Another little look airside. You're looking towards the south. Here you've got the cargo area, and here's Terminal 4. This is runway 27 left, 09 right. So as you can see by this shot, and we're looking to Terminal 3 here, the detail looks really nice. They've done a lovely job. There is extensive use of low resolution ground textures around, but certainly in this area here it's done a nice job, and it doesn't look too bad at all. It looks pretty realistic. Some people may have a shout about the fact that I'm concentrating on the internal when really perhaps I should be looking at the aircraft stands and stuff. We will look at that in detail at the moment, but remember this is a major project, and all of this that we're looking at is part of the airport and part of what makes it what it is. And I personally think if you're going to go do a job, then it needs to be done properly and to the fullest amount possible. But looking at this, the design is excellent, it's accurate. The hoarding signs here as well, and the roadwork looks really good in this central area part. This is Terminal 3. I actually worked in the terminal for quite some time when I first started. When we first started, we used to do all the terminals, but my main enjoyment was working in Terminal 3 with the long haul flights as they were then. I distinctly remember flights like Air India and Pakistan International Airways. The flights were always full, lots of baggage to search, and it was quite interesting. As you can see, the frontage there looks really good. The signs are crisp and clear. The terminal signs are, as I say, they're not flat on the terminal, they've got relief. Looks really good, very impressive. And the roadways look great. You've even got the bollards here, and all of the road markings are accurate. I actually drove past this yesterday. And everything, it looks really, really nice. It's accurate in terms of colour. There's weathering on the building as well. And to be honest, this is probably the nicest place that looks really good at night, and we'll show you that in a little bit. And there you go, last look over the Terminal 3 landside area. Looks very impressive. So while we're here, let's have a look at the airside area. This is Terminal 3 again, but airside. As you can see, looks very nice. The jetways work, they're animated. One of the things I also like is I've got the right vehicles Denata here, beautifully done, weathered. This is the connecting pier that takes you up to Pier 7. Strangely enough, in the old days, Pier 7 was where El Al used to park, and part of the end of the pier was effectively cut off for security reasons, and we had to go up there and do searches on a regular basis. But as you can see, the buildings look great, the stands are accurate, the signage and the groundwork is excellent too, especially things like the weathering here on the tarmac. It's very nice. And here we're looking at Pier 7 here. As I said, this is the connector. You go up to Pier 7 here. This, if I remember rightly, this is where El Al used to park, just here or the next stand on the very end of the pier, and we used to go up there and do searches. So again, a look towards the central area with Terminal 3 airside in the foreground here, and as you can see, the clutter looks good, the buildings look great, details look really nice, and looking towards the central area, you get the impression of a really highly detailed, well developed model of the airport here. Got no complaints with that at all. It's beautiful. Taxiways are correct. You've got Alpha and Bravo inner and outer taxiways. In the old days, these were block numbers, and in the old days, you can see here just the remnants of what used to be runway 2305, the crosswind runway. We used to have a hut somewhere out here where we could monitor the crossings from the maintenance base into the central area, and it was fun watching the airplanes trying to land in the windy conditions on the cross runway. Now that runway's been deactivated and it barely just isn't used anymore, and it's a taxiway part of the airport. So let's just have a little go from west to east. This is the northern part of what used to be Terminal 1. These are used to be the November stands, now deactivated effectively. I believe it's all part of Terminal 2. As you can see, lots of clutter, beautiful building textures. The whole thing looks really, really nice. As you can see, one or two minor stutters. I have defragged my drive and used CCleaner to clean it up, and nothing else is running, but we do get the occasional stutters. And these are the Terminal 2 stands. Look again, looking from airside. Very, very nice. So again, good signage, good stand layout there. Jetways are really good. Lots of weathering and age being shown here, for example. The glass is the right kind of colour, but there's no real reflection from it. It's not too bad. It's the whole thing is the image is excellent. It's as it should be. And again, as you can see there, detailing on the roof and the guardrails, it looks excellent. So here's the approach entry point to runway 27 right, the northern runway. We'll just a quick look at some of the signage here. As you can see, beautifully done, very, very descriptive. You can see that, no problem at all. And here they've got the holding point signs. This is Pluto, the holding point for 27 right. Up here you've got Alpha 3, which is the final holding point, and then you go on to the runway. So here, traverse across to the British Airways maintenance base number 1, which is here, and there's the Virgin hangar there. These again are very nicely modelled. You've got lots of car park and bits and pieces here. You can see scenery popping in, but they've done this really to sort of make it easier on the frame rate. This is really nice. My only real bugbear, it would have been nice to see a 747 or an A350 or some static aircraft parked here. Not loads of them, maybe one or two. British Airways livery, just so you could see them on the approach into 27 right. And it makes this place look a little less bland than it really is. There in the distance you've got the blast screen where they do the engine run-up tests. Usually at night. There's another one in this area on the right which we'll have a look at in a bit. So there's the other one. This is runway 27 left approach down here, and you've got maintenance, British Airways maintenance base number 2 down in this area. And here's the Virgin hangar. I talked about extensive use of photoreal terrain texturing, and here you can see a good example of it where they put the models in, but you've got this sort of photoreal terrain. To a great extent, at this height it doesn't look too bad, but the closer you get to it, it looks pretty dreadful when you're down close. Here's the landside road that goes around the back of the maintenance base. In the old days we used to have a control post here, and the security guys used to come up, and we used to have to go to a control post around about here, and in order to get there, of course, we couldn't cross a live runway, so we got a dispensation to take a drive along here, along the tug road that goes right round the airport here, round the back, comes into the airport and would allow us to get to control post 16. So there's the fire training ground model, which looks really good, and actually, strangely enough, here you are. This is control post 16. They've actually got it modelled. This is a security gate. Vehicles come up and they get searched, and then they go across to the central area. There's a crossing that isn't marked by the looks of it, but basically there's a crossing that goes across here and then across there into the central area, and crosses what used to be runway 23, is now a taxiway. And we used to have a little tower box somewhere here. The layout is very different, so it's hard to pinpoint it, but there was a little tower box we used to sit in there where we would monitor the vehicles coming from there to make sure that any vehicles that came from the maintenance base reported for search first before they went across to the central area. If they didn't, I could see them from the box, and I'd make a call to airfield operations, and they would intercept them and take them back for search. Everything going to the central area gets searched. So a little close look at the Virgin hangar there. Looks really nice, nicely modelled. So here on the south corner of the airport, just in front of the 27 left approach, this is the A30 down here. This is Hatton Cross, and there's one of the iconic little hotels on the other side of the highway. Can't remember its name, but you've got a couple of hotels here. And again, it doesn't look too bad when you go up to this height. And you've got this beautiful modelling here. They've constructed this just as it should be. But again, plenty of car parks. The whole area looks nice. Here's the lead-in approach lights to 27 left. Let's have a quick look. So there you are, 27 left runway approach, Terminal 4 on the left side there, central area on the right. And here's the A30, which is one of the main arterial roads that go into London. London's in this direction here. In the distance you can see the water holding ponds from the sewage works on the west side of the airport. It's a popular site after takeoff. Those people looking out the windows are wondering whether we're over the sea or not. We're actually not. We're over these balancing big ponds out here. And then further down here you've got the town of Staines and Ashford. But as you can see, the airport and the modelling fits in very well with the local area. Looks really nice. And there we are looking north again. You can see maintenance base number 2 and the landside road here that goes all the way round and eventually takes you to the north. So we'll just have a quick pan over this area. You can see here we go towards maintenance base number 1. This is the other side of the British Airways base, and here you've got runway 27 right approach here. And again, it's lovely done. It fits in really nicely with the airport and the way it does. So when you're coming into land on 27 right, this is the sort of view you get, and it looks good. Here's the A4, the other main road that goes north of the airport into London below us. You have the village of Harlington going in there. As you can see, some of the work's been done. Looks really nice. So looking west, here's the approach to runway 27 right, the northern runway. Here's the A4. Here you've got numerous hotels. We'll have a quick pan down here in a minute because we need to. And also here you've got car parks, former BAA buildings, places I used to go around at night at 2 o'clock in the morning to patrol to make sure nobody was doing anything they shouldn't do. Here's the Premier Inn, just off the northern corner of 27 Right, which is a well-known hotel. It's been there for quite a while. So let's have a pan down the A4, just on the north side of the airport here. Various hotels. Try and slow this down a bit. As you can see, there's Heathrow Boulevard. A lot of the admin staff work there. There's the Marriott Hotel. Car parks there. Beautifully modelled. Everything sits in low resolution photo textures, but it doesn't look too bad. Looks better the higher you go. There's lots of modelling here going on the north side. And then here we come to the entrance to the tunnel that takes you into the central area. Here you can see the M4 link road, takes you off the M4 motorway, brings you in around here, and you can either go up this road onto the airport perimeter road, which is this one here, or you can carry on straight down the tunnel here and go into the airport centre. A nice look at the famous Emirates 380 that sits there. Many years ago it used to be Concorde, but then BA decided no way, and the airport decided to take on Emirates. So there's the tunnel entrance. As you can see, it's not modelled. Real pity, because it's also well lit inside. The real tunnel looks really quite extensive with fans and everything inside, and could have been nicely modelled, but again they've chosen not to do that. One of the things I do like, my job was airport security and basically patrolling the airport from landside as well as airside, and so here you have the perimeter fence. As a legal requirement, needs to be 2.9 meters high with a crank neck. You can just see the crank neck there, and they've got it and it's done, and that looks really good. My only problem is they're missing the red warning signs. There are red warning signs basically telling people this is a restricted zone under EC Rig 300 regulations and you can't be admitted. This is Rendezvous Point North. Again, there should be a green sign with a white R written on it on either side of these gates. Here's the control box, which isn't modelled, it's just part of a photo scenery. Anytime there's an emergency on the north side of the airport, like if there's a landing coming into 27 Right and the aircraft's got an emergency, all of the police, fire and ambulances will all come up here and they'll all meet in this area. Airfield ops will unlock these gates, and the moment the aircraft has landed, everything will go out there onto the runway and follow the aircraft. There's an equivalent one on the east side, one on the south side, and I believe the western one still exists as well. So here we are looking across. Again, we're looking towards the west. This is the northern runway. You've got this massive car park up the end here. This used to be I think it was N1, but it used to be a staff car park. One of the things I loved to do coming off an early shift was just sit on my car before I drove home and watch the takeoffs or landings. And here you've got here's the A4. Here you've got various hotels and bits and pieces. There's a hotel there. They've even, if I remember correctly, further down, they've even got the building that houses the famous Hong Kong Chinese restaurant, which is really amazing place to eat. So we just continue the tour here. I just really want to show you the detail because it looks very, very good. So various hotels, there's a Holiday Inn. All of this beautifully modelled, very, very nicely modelled. And now below us we've got the Compass Centre, which is basically British Airways operations, landside, where everything's done and all the people work, all of the office staff and flight dispatch centre and everything there. This blue building is basically British Airways. More car parks, and you can see it looks pretty realistic. You've got the traffic moving down the A4 here. Very, very nice indeed. So we track across towards the threshold of runway 9 left. Here you can see the little pod cars. People park up in here, and you've got little 1 or 2 man pods that then go along this railway track and take you straight into Terminal 5. The track, as you can see, is done there, but there are no pods have been modelled. The only problem with this area is that the water overlapping doesn't really help. As you can see, some of the roads and bits are reasonably accurate, but they've been submerged by the water. Again, I apologise for the stuttering. This is a big scenery, and this is occasionally what happens. Not really going to be a problem for you airside, I think. So this is Terminal 5 from landside, looking towards the east, City of London in the very far distance. Again, nicely modelled. They've got the roof done really good with the skylights, and the ribbing looks very good. Not a huge amount of detail, but it looks nice, very effective. And again, a lack of anything really going on landside. Would have been nice to see maybe the odd police vehicle or company vehicle parked here. This is a drop-off point, and the building looks okay, but as you can see, minimal attention to detail here. Reflective glass looks very nice. Let's have a look inside. So this is the airside part of the terminal. Not a lot going on. Lots of little anomalies in here that haven't been completely done properly. This part looks a little bit better, but then if you move the view around, you get some little strange anomalies. So they've attempted to do something inside, but it's okay, but it's not really done anything really well. Different ball game coming out airside. Here we are airside of Terminal 5A. As you can see, the jetways look good. There's got an aircraft parked there. Lots of ground clutter, and it's the right clutter as well. Looks very good. And looking towards the threshold of runway 9 right there. And there, looking east again, you've got Terminal 5B and 5C. Again, accurately done, nicely done. Attention to detail on the ramp looks great. Not much in the way of internal development, but you know what, I'm not really so much bothered about that. You've got the airport here, and it looks good, and you've got everything you need. So just going back to my initial argument, if you want the best Heathrow to fly into and out of, so far this is it. There are lots of little bits and pieces missing and errors and stuff, but this is it. It looks good. So we're just going to traverse across runway 9 right threshold there. As you can see, all the signage is correct, everything I need. A little bit of a fuel farm there. And this is the southern taxiway. This is the cargo area coming up. You've got the, I think it's the X-ray stands that it was in the old days. Again, we used to drive along this little airside road here. And here's the main cargo terminal building. Not a huge amount going on, but again, a lot of outside clutter that makes this look a lot more effective than it might do otherwise. Typical vehicles that you would find here, DHL. There's actually a DHL building the other side, so we'll just have a look landside of this area. So here we are landside of that building. Some of this is right, some of it isn't. Here's the fence line. There's a control post here, control post 10. I used to have guards working there, and as you go into the airside, you're up to the beginning part of the cargo tunnel, which we'll look at in a second. This is all correct. There's signage missing from this building. There's a great big sign that says Cathay Pacific Cargo, which is missing from this model. This is looking down the southern perimeter road. This goes all the way down the south side of the airport. I had a drive down here yesterday. Buildings look great, just as they're supposed to be. But as you can see, there's overlapping of the water effect, which hasn't been sorted out. There's the Donata building on the other side of the road here, further south. And there's a look at the cargo stands from landside. All really nice. So I just want to show you the cargo tunnel and the surrounding area here. You can see we're on the southern perimeter road here to the right, and we've got the cargo terminal here on the left. Down here this is all landside, and here's the airside boundary fence. So this is airside. So vehicles would come up along here. You can't quite see this because it's just photoreal, but this is where control post 10 would be. There'd be a set of barriers here and a couple of guards. You have to show your ID in order to get in. and then you proceed along the road, and I'll take you along that road. This is very roughly because it's not entirely modelled, it's difficult to see. And then here you've got Control Post 10 Alpha, which is the main search post, and you've got barriers here. People get searched, IDs get checked, etc. Because this would be then Airside. So having gone through, the gates are open, you go down this road here, and the tunnel, you've got this connecting road. This is the connecting road that's above. It crosses the top. So this is not a complete tunnel here, not yet anyway, but it goes under these kind of like bridges here. And then you get to here. Here's a vehicle, and here is where the tunnel starts. This is the connecting Airside road, as you can see, that connects the Control Post 24 and the south side of the airport, Terminal 4, etc. This is an Airside road, and the tunnel starts here and essentially goes right under the airport, right under the runway. To see if I can find out where it comes out. I know roughly where it comes out, but it goes right under the runway, right under into the central area. And at some point here there should be a roundabout just above where the tunnel comes out, and yes, here it is. So here is where the tunnel comes out. Let's have a look from the other side. There you go. But this is what would be the exit for the tunnel into the central area. So as you can see, it's yet another tunnel that literally traverses right under the airport, and once again it's not modelled, unfortunately, although as you can see the road is. So we take a trip up the South Perimeter Road heading east. As you can see, these buildings accurately reflect the ones that are on the airport. There's a construction site to the left, very nice. There's a big roundabout. Here we've got Terminal 4, which is closed at the moment. And here, this is Rendezvous Point South. Here we've got the security control post, which is actually modelled. This is Control Post 24. It's a 3-lane, multi-lane security post. Vehicles come up from landside to go in there, and the vehicles and their occupants and drivers get searched. And then they go into Airside and they come along, and then got this little crossing, which here is modelled. The other one in the central area I mentioned earlier is not modelled. This one is. And you would go across here to Terminal 4 to deliver catering and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And here you've got the remote Terminal 4 stands. But this is Rendezvous Point South. Essentially, if you've got an emergency on the southern runway, everything piles through the control post. I have to have people manning the exit gate so that we can have them bombing through on blue lights and other people coming out safely without hitting each other. And they would all mass here, and when required, airfield ops would take them up straight onto the runway. So there you can see what looks like the control post. They've modelled it, which is great. Okay, it's not in detail. There are actually 3 lanes, and they're right together, and you've got all sorts of lighting and bits and pieces here that aren't really there, but no, that's fine. So I want to take a quick trip up these stands here. You can see the buses and the diversion of modelling, which is really good. And you come up towards a runway, and here on the left is the Royal Suite, one of the most difficult areas to secure. There it is, very simply modelled, but it's accurate. It's just as it's meant to be. You've got the Royal Crest on the top here. This is where all the big visiting dignitaries come, people like Bill Clinton in the old days. I was here when the Sheikh of Bahrain came along and actually had a cup of coffee with him, and I'm trying to remember the lady's name, the lady who used to be in charge of the Royal Suite, Anita Newcourt, that's her name. So myself and Anita and the Sheikh of Bahrain had coffee together one morning many years ago in this building. As you can see, accurately modelled, but bear in mind this area is essentially landside, no search required. Yeah, it's literally 50 yards from the bloody runway, so you've got to be really careful that people don't start sneaking off and going looking at airplanes. And of course you've got taxiway here going into Terminal 4, so aircraft will come out, and when they're using 9 right, they'll come out and they'll taxi out this way and head this way towards runway 9 right. So everything goes right past this terminal, and bear in mind here where this line is, everything past here on this side, search required. Search and ID required. So one of the things that is missing, there's a big red sign in the grass here basically saying restricted zone, report for search or whatever. Can't remember the exact wording, but it's a great big red sign denoting this demarcation line here. Again, very difficult to patrol, very difficult to keep secure and to make sure people don't do what they shouldn't be doing, because obviously the Royal Suite is a VIP suite, very special place, full of prestige, right next to the runway, just where your VIPs want to be. But as I said, a security nightmare really. So let's have a look at Terminal 4. This has been done really nicely well. The taxiway signage is good. There's the blast screen that goes right down behind the other stands here. Let me just go right the way around here, look. And there you've got the blast block, and here you can see the stands of the terminal. So we just traverse across the landside part. You see you've got hotel here as well. It's a Holiday Inn Express, Crown Plaza as well on the other side. Nice modelling here. There's the Premier Inn, and here's the blast screen just south of 27 left, where you've got additional stands, and there's the A30 and the perimeter road to the south. Sorry, not the A30, that's the perimeter road on the south side of the airport, southern perimeter. So here's the approach to 27 left. So when they were taken off in Terminal 4 onto 27 left, this is the route they would follow. But as far as I know, Terminal 4 is closed at the moment. Again, not an awful lot of modelling, just bits and pieces here. It's perfectly adequate, nothing more. Control Post 14 used to be here, right in the corner of this building. And on the other side of here, I'm not sure if it's modelled, I'll have a quick look in a minute, was the GAT terminal, the GAT, General Aviation Terminal. Used to be Harrods, before that it was Fields Aviation, but it was basically for private things. I mean, John Travolta came in here one day, so did Simon and Garfunkel when I was on the post, so we used to get a few VIPs coming through there. And I mentioned that we had the facility to drive airside around the back of 27 left. Here you see the connecting crossing that connects the main Terminal 4 with this side of the airport. We used to get permission to drive along here, all the way up here, and take the tug road here, look, that goes right the way around the back of the airport, and ultimately will take us up past the BA hangar to this point here, which is Control Post 16, where they have the crossing and everything gets searched. So quite a trip down memory lane for me. This is really quite an impressive place. They've done a wonderful job. All in all, they've done a wonderful job. I would like to see Inibuilds do some upgrades to this. We'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I want to just move this to the central area and let you have a look at the lighting. I'm not going to spend too much time on the lighting. I'll just let you have a look, because in general, it's not the greatest lighting I've ever seen, but we'll have a look at it anyway. Okay, just before 10 to 6 in the evening local time, sunset's going down. The lighting in general looks okay. Just give it the description okay, because that's all it is. You've got adequate lighting here around the stands, as you can see, for example. But as we get a little closer, we'll have a look in a minute, there's no light source. The areas are lit, but there's really, the light poles themselves are not switched on. There's no light source. And as you can see, much of this area is unlit. Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. Terminal 2 here on the right, you've got this illusion here looking through the glass, which looks quite nice. And here you've got the airside part of Terminal 3, which looks really good too. Okay, looking down towards Terminal 5 and the runway, you've got the green centerline taxi lights here, the runway entrance marking lights. Runway itself's well lit, no problem at all there. Taxi signs, some of them are lit, some of them aren't, as you can see. Airside, where you park your aircraft, you've got adequate lighting. But let's get down and have a look at an aircraft stand and see the lighting itself. First we'll have a look down here at Terminal 2. Sorry, this is the back end of Terminal 3, my apologies. Now this is interesting. If you didn't see this before, here you've got lights that are on and they provide the lighting, which is good. This lighting is okay, but it's extremely low resolution. As you can see, the effect isn't that great. So here we are looking at the control tower, which is something of an iconic structure at Heathrow now. Well, it used to be it was one of the tallest towers in the world when it was first constructed. Obviously things have happened since then, and I was actually on duty the night they transported this right across the central area from the Terminal 4 area and brought it in here so that they could do it and mount it in the night time. It was quite a project. So here you got the fuel farm, a little bit of lighting here which is okay, but it does look a bit cartoonish. I think Terminal 5 is where the lighting anomalies exist. Let's just go down and have a look here. Yeah, here we are. So you've got this stand lit up. Here's the light stanchion, here's the light coming from it, but the lights are actually not switched on. So these are, I mean, okay, they're niggles really. I'm not sure really if they were there and they were switched on, they would provide better lighting. That I'm not sure. Not being a developer myself, I can't say whether that would make any effect. So we're going to whiz across to Terminal 5A here. And as you can see, the building itself really, okay, it's alright, but it's not, unfortunately, it's not the way it should be. There's an awful lot more light coming out of this building at night, and at the moment it looks pretty bland. The lighting's pretty dreadful here, unfortunately. Something they need to sort out. And again, the landside roads look good, but the building itself is as dark as a black night. And again, only some of the car parks are light. I can't see the obvious light sources either. So just bear in mind, I think you'll have enough light to be able to taxi and find your stand and park up, but don't expect the building to look too terribly impressive at night. And here, as we come across the 9 right threshold, you can see much of the beautiful construction that they put here is completely dark. It's not been lit in any way, which is a pity. So here we are, runway 9 left. It has a displaced threshold, as you can see. I'm just going to pull back and come up a bit. So there you go, you've got the high intensity runway lighting system. I think this is version 1, version 2 is slightly better, but this is perfectly adequate, and it's going to be perfectly adequate for a Cat 3B approach as well. You've got plenty of lighting. It would have been nice to see some strobes added, however. Looking along the north side of the airport there, you can see lighting, some of it quite subtle, looks really quite good. And there you can see the highway going into the airport there, and some of the lighting into London. Looks really nice. So a quick run down the runway here. On the north side there you can see car parks that are lit up, various buildings that are lit up, including the Compass Centre. Looks really good. The lighting there on the November stands to the right looks really quite nice. And here, as we approach the British Airways Maintenance Base number 1, you've got some nice lighting there. I mean, that looks really quite nice, very effective. As I said, would have been nice to have 1 or 2 static aircraft here with British Airways livery, just to let people know, because you're going to see all this as you come in on the approach to SU7 right. So a last look at the central area then from in the dusk, and you can see lighting's quite adequate, it's perfectly okay. Just a pity that the buildings themselves aren't lit as well as the surrounding areas. I did want to show you this. This is Terminal 3 landside. We've got this beautiful pink hue which really makes this come to life a bit more. The windows and everything are all a bit low resolution, but from this distance it looks quite effective. Again, you've got light poles here that are producing a bit of light, but we can't see any light on the poles. Let's try and go down a little bit. There, you see you've got lights on the ground, a light source, but the lights themselves actually aren't switched on, which is in marked contrast to this here under the main terminal building. So we're in the central area there, from the exit to the main tunnel into the central area where the Turkish Airlines sign is, and you can see that looks more like a tunnel in the darker times. And here is the approach sign to the Heathrow tunnel from the north side, which takes you into the central area where we looked at. This is nicely done. This looks really quite nice at night in the real world, and here too there's a nice job with that. Here's the Emirates aircraft, and again we're looking at the tunnel going in there, but as you can see the tunnel is essentially blocked. They've not lit it or done it in any way. Really could have been nice, because the tunnel is well lit when you go through at night, and it's quite impressive driving through it. So there's the central area looking south from the north side of the airport. Let's drop the lighting down to night. So 9 p.m. in the evening, and as you can see, lighting's adequate. Quite a bit that's lit up, quite a bit that isn't. Terminal 5 I think is the main culprit. When you look at Terminal 5 it looks pretty dark. In the real world it looks really pretty bright. I'm going to try and find a photograph and put it up for you. However, as I've said before, this is the best that you can get in terms of Heathrow. It's a massive project. Real kudos to Inibuilds for taking it on. So it's about time to finish this rather long review, and I apologise for the length, and actually I make no apologies. There's a lot to see here. It's a huge project. They've done a lot, and we really needed to see an awful lot. There's actually quite a lot I actually haven't touched on. But what do I think? Okay, I think it's a really good project. It's great. Price wise I think it's almost there. Could be a little bit cheaper, but when you look at all of the work that's been done, you think about the likes of Fly Temper and Pyrogi and what they would do, and the price of their projects, then you could say that probably this might be a little overpriced. And I think to a large extent that might be true. I mean, I was happy to pay the money for it. I wasn't given this unfortunately to review. I did ask for a review copy. That hasn't been given, hasn't come along. Anyhow, this, as I said before, this is the best that you will get for Flight Sim 2020 currently. And at the moment it is better than MKVY's project, which is still in its infancy, the freeware one that's on flightsim.to. So if you want the best and you want the realism, this is it currently. The downsides, okay, the lighting is terrible. At night time they really need to work on the lighting. Particularly Terminal 5 is the worst culprit. There are lots of areas where you've got lighting but no obvious source, and lots of areas where the lighting is far too big, and other places where the lighting is totally absent and it really needed to be there. This is a huge airport and there's lighting everywhere. I know that, we've travelled around it, but a lot of it is missing. There's heavy use of phototerrain texturing. Some places it works, in other places it sits right by detailed work, and it doesn't work because of that. Parts of the central area, the roadways look great, but then you've got low resolution texturing that spoils the whole thing. I'm not so much worried about any internal work on the terminals, but it would have been nice to see more work on the landside areas of each of the terminals. Signage, road signs, the odd car, police car, whatever parked here and there, would have been really nice. The Heathrow tunnel is an important sort of landmark on this airport, and yet it's essentially been blocked up. And I've showed you in that earlier piece of video that the ability to do some kind of tunnel in Flight Sim 2020 actually does exist. So it would be nice for them to work on the tunnel and get that lit and have something of it there. Okay, those of you will turn around to me and say, yeah, we don't need that. I'm only flying in and out of here, and you're absolutely right. But if you're going to do a project like this in the way that they've done that, don't leave it half done. That's my opinion. Complete it, certainly on the iconic parts. Okay, the control tower is beautifully done. No internal development, but I'm not bothered about that. It really does look nice. And the terminals and the jetways have done a lovely job. The fuel farm and the cargo area looks good, looks really good, and the runways and the signage on everywhere is bright, so if you're flying online you'll know where you are when ATC gives you taxiing instructions. And the concrete is nicely weathered and it's the right colour. So lots of good things about this scenery, but also lots of little things that spoil it because they're not done or they haven't been completed. But make no mistake, this is a good project. It's really good. I'm happy I bought it, and I will use it, providing of course I can fly in and out of here without any terrible stutters and any program shutdowns. Providing that's the case, I think it's more than acceptable. It's a little expensive for the price. I'd like to see it a little cheaper, But overall, a big project. Kudos to them for taking it on, and I like it, and many of you will too. But I'm concerned that there's no manual or readme file. Like I said, a lot of non-UK members or non-UK simmers are going to be looking at this and using this for the first time, and they have no idea about runway alternation program and the fact that 9 left is never used for takeoffs and blah blah blah. And Heathrow is a rather special place with its own particular procedures, and a manual or some kind of PDF or readme file would have been useful. And I should imagine the people who designed this are pretty annoyed that they're not even credited anywhere because no manual's been produced with the credits. But that's just my opinion. No offence to Inibuilds or the people who've done this. It's a lovely project and I'm pleased with it. So thanks again folks for joining me in this review. I hope you've seen something you like, and I hope you understand the shortcomings that I've made. But I think it's great, and I'm pleased that I bought it and I will use it. So thank you very much for joining me. You guys have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next review. This is Lee on the Virtual Airline Pilot channel saying thank you for joining me, thank you for looking at this. I'm happy to see any comments in the comment section below in case I've made any mistakes. It's 16 years since I worked here, so some things may have escaped my memory, so I apologise for that. Anyway, see you soon, take care, bye bye for now.